or welcome back to my channel. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Saskia and I am a second year psychology student at the University of Southampton. So you can probably tell by the title, I'm basically going to try and do a video of like how to find a house for second year, how to do the house thing, because I know loads of people start thinking about it around this time, which is terrifying because we've been at uni for like, this is my third week at uni, and the fact that people are already picking houses is disgusting. So I've got like some facts, some advice, I guess, and I'm just going to talk through it. Nothing particularly fancy. So first thing of kind of timeline, there is no specific timeline. You don't have to have found a house. I know loads of people kind of mention like you have to have found a house by Christmas. You don't. I don't think I'd even decided who I was living with until like just before Christmas. And then we didn't sign on our house contract until March. Like we knew, I think we started going looking in February and then we signed in March. Like it doesn't have to be done before Christmas, and I would honestly recommend doing it either kind of just before Christmas or after Christmas, because if you have after Christmas, you do it, you've had time to think. Like if you're going to live in a house with loads of people and you've thought actually that doesn't seem like it's going to work for you, you've had the 2 weeks to kind of think about it, talk with your family, and figure out what is going on, because you don't want to just kind of commit to something you don't like, which a lot of people do. Loads of people I know that signed their houses in November, December time are not happy with their flatmates. Like you don't have to live with the people you're currently living with. Loads of people will live with their current flat, people will live with like course mates, mates from sports and stuff, but you don't have to, there's no specific people you have to live with. So first thing I thought I'd talk about is like the people you can live with. So I'm not gonna lie, first things first, it's probably worth looking at how big a house you want to live in. Like if you want to live on your own, that's fine, that's easy, you know, sorted. If you want to live with 2 people, are there actually 2 people houses? Are there 2 people flats? If you want to live with 8 people, can you find an 8-bedroom house? Like if you know you want to live with more people, it's worth checking, are there actually probably more than 5 houses that can fit 8 people in, because you're probably not going to be the only one looking for a house with 8 people. So yeah, if you're looking for like a bigger house, you probably want to get that done sooner, I would say, because it's probably going to be harder to find. I know that when I check online now, like when I was looking at houses and stuff, there was still loads of like 2, 3 and 4 beds, and I feel like that's kind of the most common size that exists. I'd say 2, 3, 4 and 5 are probably your safest bets, with kind of 3, 4 and 5 being more obvious. There's not as many 2 beds. But yeah, like how to find your housemates basically. You can live with people from your current flat. Like if you're in halls and you like your whole flat, you might just decide, right, let's live with them. I know loads of people did that with COVID from my year, because you couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't make friends. So the people that you lived with had to be people that you had already lived with essentially. You might want to live with literally like 2 of the people from your flat that currently live there, and they might have already got some friends somewhere else. So you might join on to that group. You might make, you might make 2 friends in your flat, they have a friend somewhere else, and join houses. So I know that kind of as it gets later on in like the process, I guess, like as you hit kind of April, I would say, if you've not found a house by then, a lot of people tend to send in like WhatsApp chats like, oh, we've got a spare spot, someone's dropped out. So like if you're living on your own and you haven't found somewhere, you probably can just join a house, if that makes sense. And there's also the chance that kind of if you have one more friend and you find another group of 2 people, you can live together because it will end up being cheaper for you. So like it might be worth looking around. If you found one person you definitely want to live with, it might be worth checking, you know, can you afford to live with just one person? Like will that work for you financially? And also would you be happy to join another group to make it cheaper and to just have more social interaction? Like there are loads of options with what you can do. You can live on your own, you can live with, you know, 2 people from your flat and their friends, 1 person from your current flat and 7 of their friends. You could live with 2 of your friends, join a group with another 3, and just live as a house of 6 with people you don't necessarily know, but it will end up being cheaper. There are also things like house shares. So I personally didn't like the idea of a house share unless I knew the people, which you don't in a house share. But like if you do have two people and you're really struggling to find somewhere to live, there's normally going to be a house share somewhere that you can just live in a house of 5. You know that person that you're living with, and the other 3 are just people that you don't know. Like that's normally quite cheap as well. So then in terms of location, it depends on what you want. I know that I didn't want to live in the city because really far away, really expensive. Like if I was a massive clubber, maybe. I'm not, if you hadn't noticed. Like if you're a big going out person, you might want to live near the going out places. If you know that you don't really wake up very early, you might want to live closer to the uni so you can get there faster. So you want to be kind of within walking distance to the uni, or maybe if you're living somewhere cheaper, within commuting distance to the uni, because you don't want to commute all the time if it's expensive. You need to look at supermarkets as well. Like I feel like that's an obvious thing, but like, do you really want to be getting the bus every time you need to go do a food shop? Because that's just going to add up your total of how much you're spending. Like, it's worth just seeing what is around you, what's kind of there. And that links on to my next point, which is basically when you're looking at houses, sort them by map. So I used Zoopla and Rightmove. Those are just the 2 easiest websites. I would search like 2-bed flat in Southampton, and those were the top ones that came up. And then I'd go on it as a map, zoom into the area I wanted. I knew exactly where there's like student areas. Like in Southampton, people will live in like Highfield or Portswood. So I was like, right, that seems like it's going to be a good job. If I live in Portswood, you're in the town centre. You're near the uni and you're near shops. If you live in Highfield, you're near the campus. Like, have a look at the student areas. You'll kind of know where the student areas, I guess, because as soon as you look on Zoopla or Rightmove on the map, they're quite well populated with houses. Like, if I look on Zoopla or Rightmove in, like, the Portswood or the Highfield area of Southampton, that's where most of the houses are. So yeah, I recommend sorting it by map when you go on a house searching website, and also use the filters. Like loads of the places will be unfurnished and you might accidentally click on a house, think, right, that's really great, that's really cheap, and then it's completely unfurnished. No, like make sure you put that you want it furnished, you want not a house share, because it will normally show you house shares. Put the amount of bedrooms that you want, like the amount that you're willing to spend per person, and then you can kind of, I don't know, it's either Zoopla or Rightmove, you can draw the area that you're looking for. So you can either draw it and like choose the area, or just look on the map and think, right, this bit looks nice, and then you can kind of work out the rough location. Like in terms of location, if one of you has a job or something and you need to be really close to that, try and find somewhere that's like a midpoint between maybe the job and town, or the job and uni, so that you're not living somewhere for just one person, if that makes sense. Like find somewhere that works for everybody. But yeah, I would recommend you kind of want to live roughly near the uni, but honestly, like I think most people tend to live less than a half-hour walk from uni, which I think is fine. Like it's not particularly far, it's not particularly difficult to walk to uni. In terms of your location, look at your priorities. Is priority 1 to be close to uni? Is priority 1 to be close to your job? Is priority 1 to be close to your other friends? Like prioritise your location preferences essentially before you go and do the actual searching. Work out what the rent will be per person as well, because what they'll normally do is show you the rent in total. So like if they showed you the rent of being £1,000 a month and there's 2 of you, that's £500 a month. Like it seems obvious, but work out the rent. Also work out what you can actually afford to spend. So like if you know that one of your people in your flat gets minimum student loan and their parents aren't going to be able to help out, someone else gets maximum student loan, you will need to be able to find a place that's probably going to be suitable for the person getting minimum student loan. They're not suddenly going to have more money to spend. You want to find somewhere that financially works. Like if everyone's getting minimum student loan, you're going to want to look for somewhere that they can actually afford. I feel like that's common knowledge, but I know loads of people will like find a house and then their rent doesn't actually cover it. So yeah, find somewhere that is affordable, that you can like spend. Like I think it was a good idea to compare it to your accommodation from last year. So my accommodation last year was £5,800 or something like that, and my accommodation this year is around that. So I know I survived last year financially, and I can do the same this year. Like if you had a really cheap accommodation last year, chances are you might have to splash out a little bit more because you're living in a house rather than a room essentially. And if you had like a really expensive accommodation, you're now going to have more living money because your accommodation would be cheaper. So think about money, think about what you can actually afford. You can filter it by price. yeah, don't be stupid. Then in terms of like utilities and stuff, I would say don't bother with bill splitting companies. They end up more expensive. So I would say unless you have like a huge amount of people and you don't trust that they're going to pay you, don't bother. I think when I was looking at bill splitting companies, the bills went from £70 to £120 a month. Currently, when we just pay the companies ourselves, we spend like 60, 65, not even, like it's not worth doing it unless you're looking for specific things, but like basically don't bill split. I thought it'd be like really good and really useful, but no, don't bother. It works out more expensive, which kind of does make sense because you're paying for the service of them splitting the bills for you, but like the Wi-Fi worked out costing more. I think the water ended up costing less, but like gas and electric ended up costing a lot more. Just don't bother. There's not really any point. And then talking of kind of bills and stuff, Wi-Fi is actually quite hard to find. There's very few 12-month student contracts. A lot of them are 18 months or 24 months. If you find an 18-month one that you really want, look at the terms and conditions and see if you could terminate the contract early. But I would say 12-month ones are hard to find. You can find a couple of monthly rolling ones. So like I would say Virgin is probably the best. Virgin Student Wi-Fi, they'll do like loads of different M's. Like we have 150 M for 2 people, that's fast enough. And then they have like 200 M, 250, 300. It works out cheaper than most other places, and you also get faster Wi-Fi. I guess I've not had any issues with the Wi-Fi here. I also found Hyper Optic, which does monthly rolling. I think it worked out slightly more expensive, but if you can't find a 12-month contract, that will just roll every month. Like, yeah. And then with kind of going back to the bill splitting actually, if you're going to not split your bills, just set up standing orders. Go on your banking app, set up standing orders so that you're going to be paying people each month. And if you're one person that's paying for like Wi-Fi and everyone owes you £5 a month, honestly keep a checklist of who pays you, because it's not worth losing money because someone's not paid you. Like, and I know it would be uncomfortable to be like, hi, by the way, you owe me money, but like, just message them and be like, oh, hi, have you got the Wi-Fi payment for this month? Like, you don't want to feel like kind of annoying, but you don't want to lose money. And like, I know in some places it works out kind of like, say you were living with 3 people, sometimes it will work out like one person can pay Wi-Fi, one person can pay gas and electric, one person can pay water, and then also contribute to gas and electric, and it works out like roughly the same price for everyone. So you don't always have to like set up payments to each other. Sometimes you can just kind of split who pays. So yeah, don't get scammed by your friends. Like, I know that they'll be your friends and stuff, but like, people might just genuinely forget that they are owing you money. They might not set a reminder. But if someone is going to owe you money, set it up as a standing order. I have a standing order to my flatmate. I don't have to worry about it, and you can end your standing order as soon as your contract ends. If your contract is going to go till July, your last Wi-Fi payment is June the 20th, stop your standing order on the June 20th payment, and then you won't overpay. And like, I mean, still double check that your bank is actually doing that, but like, then you're not overpaying or underpaying, and you don't actually have to think about it. Like, I just know that I'm paying bills without having to think about bill paying. I think that's kind of all of the general information. Like, there's no, just an overview, there's no right time to get your house. Like, there's no rush. There are still houses in even like May. Like, and also student house contracts start at stupid times. They start in July. Like, ours is July to July, 12 months. Some places will do 9 months from like September to whenever 9 months is from that. But chances are you're probably gonna have a 12-monther, which means that you might end up just staying in your student town over summer. Bit annoying. But yeah, overview, summary, don't rush into signing a contract with people you don't like. I know that our university did like housemate matching. Like, you put in who you were, if you had like another person that you kind of grouped with, what kind of house you wanted, where you wanted to live, what your interests were, what your courses were, if you had any like you know, you can't live with men, or you don't want to live with medical students or students that are going to go on placement or things like that. You put all of that in, and they kind of matched you and did like matchmaking, that kind of thing. I know that ran really late for our uni. Like that was running in like May, June time, which by that point you're pretty much about to leave halls anyway. You should have a house. Like there's not really a deadline, but I would say if you haven't got a house by June, just see if you can find a house share, because our contract started on 1st of July. So most student houses will start around then, and it's not worth doing a quick turnaround. Like read your contracts properly, keep all of your documents safe, like don't rush into anything. If there's something you don't understand on your contract, ask your landlord. I didn't understand some things. I just emailed, I was like, on point 1.12, what does this mean and why does it mean this? Like, I think there was something about like the heating had to be on specifically amount of times in the day, and I was like, why? What's the point of that? And then they just clarified it for you. Like, easy enough. And then also when you do move into your house, photos of everything. Landlords will take your deposit. And also there's also kind of a lot of people will like know about different landlords in the area. And like if you know any second years, like if you do sports with people who are already in second year, ask them if their landlord stole their deposit essentially. Like there's a kind of, also this side note, but we have like University of Southampton meme page, and they basically said like if you sign up with posh pads you're not getting your deposit back. So I was like, right, I don't want to go with posh pads. Like you just kind of know who is not necessarily a good company, but you know who's a bad one. Like there are probably bad companies to go with. Look at their reviews, go on Yelp, Trustpilot, Google reviews, and basically just see how bad things were for other people. Like, I mean, if you go on like Unite Students, that's a hellhole, so don't live with Unite Students. But like if you go on, I don't know, other ones, might be okay. Like sometimes it's worth spending a bit more on a house to have a landlord and a company that's not going to be awful and that would actually fix things if they break. Like it's not worth having a really cheap place, but then the lights all break, your desk falls apart, and no one's going to come and fix that for like 2 months. You know? But yeah, I think that is everything. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm not particularly an expert, but also like don't feel pressured that you have to get a house soon. I'm only posting this now because I know people will start looking, and the social pressure of have you found a housemate yet, who you can live with yet, that's going to start. So yeah, don't feel pressured, but I hope this was helpful. If you need any clarification or anything, I'll try and link everything I've spoken about down below. So like Zoopla, Rightmove, the Wi-Fi contracts, things like that. And then I'll see you in my next video.